Chapter 1. The Birth of Power. Before skyscrapers pierced the clouds. Before private jets traced invisible highways across the sky. Before stock tickers blinked endlessly in digital light. There was land, there were titles, there were names. Old money was not created overnight. It was carved into history. It began in eras where power did not move at the speed of code, but at the pace of inheritance. Vast estates stretched across rolling countryside. Generations walked the same marble corridors. Portraits of ancestors lined the walls, their painted eyes watching silently as heirs grew into their roles. Wealth, in those days, was inseparable from structure. Land ownership meant influence. Influence meant access. Access meant control. Families built fortunes through railroads that connected cities, through oil that fueled industrial revolutions, through banks that financed nations. Their money did not simply grow, it embedded itself into the foundations of society. Old money was never loud. It did not need to be. Its presence was understood. A last name could open doors without a word spoken. A quiet phone call could shape a decision in a distant boardroom. Invitations arrived without being requested. Memberships were assumed. The psychology of old money begins here, in certainty. Certainty that the house will remain in the family. Certainty that capital will be protected. Certainty that legacy is not temporary. For old money, wealth is not an event. It is an environment. A child born into it does not experience a sudden transformation from nothing to something. There is no dramatic before and after. There is only continuity. They grow up surrounded by subtle signals of permanence. Antique silver polished every Sunday. Trust documents signed quietly in private offices. Conversations about long-term investments overheard at dinner. They are taught restraint early. Never appear desperate. Never discuss money openly. Never confuse noise with influence. The lesson is simple. Real power does not announce itself. Now contrast that with the birth of new money. New money begins with movement. A garage startup. A late-night idea. A risk that others were too cautious to take. It often begins in uncertainty. Where old money was born in structure, new money is born in disruption. The founder sits in a small apartment lit by laptop glow. The entrepreneur stares at numbers that could collapse tomorrow. The investor makes a decision that could multiply everything or erase it. There is no inherited safety net of reputation. No centuries-old name cushioning failure. There is hunger. Hunger to build. The psychology of new money is shaped by ascent. Every milestone is visible. The first million feels like a summit. The first major acquisition feels like validation. The first magazine cover feels like arrival. New money carries memory. It remembers what it was like before the breakthrough. That memory becomes fuel. Where old money is conditioned to preserve, new money is conditioned to expand. This difference in origin creates a fundamental psychological divide. Old money fears erosion. New money fears stagnation. Old money asks, how do we keep this for the next century? New money asks, how do we make this 10 times bigger? And yet, both forms of wealth share a hidden similarity. Both crave permanence. One seeks it through tradition. The other seeks it through dominance. But permanence is fragile. History has shown that fortunes can evaporate in a generation. Revolutions topple dynasties. Markets collapse empires. Technology rewrites entire industries. Old money knows this, which is why it hides in diversification, in trusts, in careful alliances. New money learns this, often through painful volatility. The difference is that old money prepares for storms before clouds gather. New money sometimes builds the ship while already at sea. In grand halls of inherited estates, the air feels still. Time moves slowly. Decisions are measured. The future is decades away. In glass-walled penthouses overlooking neon skylines, time feels compressed. Deals close overnight. Trends change weekly. The future feels immediate. Old money exists in a world of lineage. New money exists in a world of momentum. One draws identity from ancestry. The other draws identity from achievement. And as society evolves, these two forces collide more often than ever before. The heirs of industrial dynasties now share universities with the children of tech founders. Venture capital flows into companies built by those who grew up far from inherited privilege. Family offices invest in startups run by entrepreneurs who once rented tiny apartments. The boundaries blur, but the psychological fingerprints remain. Imagine two rooms. In the first room, conversations are quiet. Tailored suits, subtle watches, discussions about preserving capital for future generations. The atmosphere is controlled, almost ritualistic. In the second room, voices are animated. Screens glow with projections. Ideas bounce rapidly. Risk is calculated in real time. The atmosphere hums with possibility. Both rooms contain wealth, but they feel different. Old money feels anchored. New money feels kinetic. Old money trusts history. New money trusts innovation. And society needs both. Without old money, institutions might collapse under instability. Without new money, progress might slow into complacency. One provides roots, the other provides wings, but roots and wings rarely understand each other at first glance. Old money may view new money as impulsive, flashy, unrefined. New money may view old money as stagnant, elitist, detached. These perceptions shape behavior. The heir may choose discretion at a gala, blending into a room of similarly understated wealth. The entrepreneur may choose visibility, leveraging attention as a strategic asset. Visibility itself becomes a dividing line. For old money, invisibility is power. For new money, visibility is leverage. Yet time alters everything. Today's disruptive founder may, decades later, sit in a quiet study, advising grandchildren on conservative investments. Today's brash success story may eventually prioritize privacy over publicity. And some old money heirs may reject tradition entirely, launching bold ventures that echo the very risk-taking once foreign to their lineage. The birth of power, whether inherited or earned, is only the beginning. What truly defines wealth is how it evolves. Because money is not static. It moves through generations like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes violent. Old money builds dams, new money builds turbines. Both harness the same current, but in different ways. And as the world accelerates into an era defined by artificial intelligence, digital assets, and global interconnection, the distinction between old and new wealth becomes both sharper and more intertwined. The stage is set. Two philosophies, two histories, two psychologies, one question lingering beneath it all. Is wealth defined by where it came from, or by what it becomes? The answer begins not. Chapter 2. The Psychology of Identity and Status. Money does more than purchase comfort. It shapes identity. It determines how a person enters a room, how long they hold eye contact, how they interpret silence. For old money, identity is inherited before it is understood. A child grows up surrounded by symbols that quietly communicate status. Family crests embossed on stationery. Stories of great-grandparents who funded institutions or advised leaders. Homes filled with objects older than the nation itself. The message is subtle but constant. You belong here. There is no urgency to prove worth through wealth because wealth is assumed. Instead, the pressure comes from preservation of dignity. Old money children are often taught that reputation outweighs riches. A scandal is more damaging than a financial loss. Discretion is more valuable than applause. Status, in this world, is quiet. It is the confidence of not needing validation. It is wearing something expensive that only a few can recognize as expensive. It is understanding social codes without being taught them publicly. Psychologically, this creates a deep internal anchor. The individual feels stable because their status is rooted in history. Even if markets fluctuate, their surname remains. But this stability carries its own weight. There is expectation. Expectation to behave appropriately. Expectation to maintain alliances. Expectation to avoid actions that could fracture legacy. Failure is not just personal. It reflects backward onto generations and forward onto descendants. Now consider new money. New money identity is constructed in real time. It is forged in struggle, shaped by ambition, sharpened by competition. Before wealth arrives, there is often invisibility, a sense of being overlooked, underestimated, ignored. When success finally comes, it does more than change lifestyle. It changes self-perception. The entrepreneur who once doubted their place in elite spaces now walks into them as an owner, not an outsider. The creator once dismissed now commands attention. Status, for new money, is proof. Proof of competence. Proof of intelligence. Proof that risk was justified. This creates a powerful psychological drive. Visibility becomes affirmation. Awards, headlines, social media recognition, they are not merely ego boosts. They are markers of transition from obscurity to influence. Where old money internalizes status, new money externalizes it. Where old money avoids discussing wealth, new money may narrate the journey openly. This is not simply about personality. It is about origin. If you have always belonged, you do not need to announce belonging. If you had to fight for entry, you are more likely to acknowledge the victory. Status anxiety also differs between the two. Old money fears decline. The possibility that mismanagement could erode centuries of stability creates caution. Investments are reviewed meticulously. Decisions are layered with advisors. The anxiety is not about making more, it is about not losing. New money fears irrelevance. In industries defined by innovation, dominance can be temporary. A single competitor, a technological shift, a market crash can alter position quickly. The anxiety here is about staying ahead. The result is acceleration. Old money moves carefully because it assumes time is abundant. New money moves quickly because it assumes time is scarce. Even leisure reflects this difference. Old money leisure is ritualistic. Summers in the same coastal town. Winters in familiar. New money leisure is experiential. Private islands discovered spontaneously. Extreme adventures. Exclusive events in ever-changing cities. One seeks continuity. The other seeks stimulation. Psychologists often speak of security orientation versus achievement orientation. Old money is security oriented. New money is achievement oriented. Security-oriented individuals prioritize safety, preservation, and predictability. Achievement-oriented individuals prioritize growth, recognition, and advancement. Neither is inherently superior. Each evolved in response to circumstance. But when these orientations meet, misunderstandings can occur. Old money may interpret new money's boldness as recklessness. New money may interpret old money's restraint as lack of ambition. Yet beneath the surface, both share a deeper desire: control. Control over environment, control over narrative, control over legacy. The difference lies in method. Old money controls through stability. New money controls through expansion. Another psychological divide appears in how each group relates to scarcity. Old money is often generations removed from material scarcity. Basic needs have long been secured. This can create a mindset of measured calm. New money often remembers scarcity vividly. Even after wealth is achieved, remnants of that memory linger. Some self-made millionaires continue to negotiate aggressively, save meticulously, or work relentlessly, even when financial survival is no longer at stake. Scarcity memory becomes both strength and shadow. It fuels drive, but it can also prevent rest. Old money, having never experienced dramatic ascent, may struggle to understand this relentless urgency. And new money may struggle to understand old money's composure. Consider how each responds to public scrutiny. Old money avoids it. Privacy is protection. Exposure invites vulnerability. Interviews are rare. Statements are carefully crafted. New money may embrace it. Visibility can attract investors, partnerships, influence. Personal brand becomes asset. This difference shapes culture. Old money culture values subtle codes, knowing which fork to use without hesitation, recognizing a rare vintage without checking the label, understanding the unspoken hierarchy in a room. New money culture values innovation codes, recognizing emerging trends, understanding digital metrics, mastering negotiation in fast-paced environments. Old money measures status through lineage and long-standing association. New money measures status through scale and impact. Yet as decades pass, something fascinating occurs. The founder ages. The company stabilizes. The once risky venture becomes institutional. The children of new money grow up surrounded by comfort, without witnessing the struggle that created it. Slowly, achievement orientation begins to blend with security orientation. The second generation of new money may begin to resemble old money in mindset. They may prioritize preservation over disruption. They may value discretion over display. And in that moment, new money begins its transformation. Because time softens edges, ambition cools into strategy, urgency evolves into patience. Meanwhile, old money faces a different evolution. In a rapidly changing world, pure preservation can lead to stagnation. To survive, old money families must adopt some degree of innovation. They invest in startups. They hire younger advisors. They modernize portfolios. Thus, achievement orientation quietly enters old money psychology. The two worlds begin to converge, but their origins still echo. In a conversation about risk, the heir may pause before speaking. The founder may answer immediately. In a negotiation, the heir may prioritize relationship continuity. The founder may prioritize outcome. In a crisis, the heir may consult tradition. The founder may invent a new solution. These patterns are not absolute, but they are common threads woven through generations of wealth. At its core, the psychology of old money versus new money is about time. Old money stretches backward, new money stretches forward. Old money draws confidence from what has already endured. New money draws confidence from what can still be built. One trusts history, one trusts possibility, and in a world accelerating faster than ever before, the tension between history and possibility becomes the defining narrative of wealth. Because money is never just about numbers. It is about how those numbers shape belief. Belief about identity, belief about worth, belief about what is secure, and what is at risk. Old money believes legacy defines value. New money believes creation defines value. But perhaps true power lies in mastering both. Understanding when to protect, understanding when to leap, understanding that status is not merely inherited or earned, it is sustained. And sustainability requires awareness. Awareness of origin, awareness of psychology, awareness that wealth, regardless of its beginning, is fragile if misunderstood. The deeper we look, the clearer it becomes. Old money and new money are not enemies. They are expressions of different survival strategies. One perfected stability, the other perfected ascent, and both are still evolving.